Hey everyone, it's Hayes, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the mysterious council and theorise who could be who and expose who isn't very nice / who has got far too much time on their hands. Like, could you really be bothered doing all of this? The answer is no. Nothing is ever that deep. Anyway, let's first discuss who I don't think is on the council, just to get some people out of the way. And right away, I don't think any of the kids, including Lila, are on the council. Now, I know a lot of people have been like, well, what about Felix as well as Lila? But actually, I think no to both. I don't like Felix, that's not a secret, or that's not the reason why I don't think he's on the council, but I just don't think he'd be on the council. I think it's a very much adults-only thing, and I also really don't think Felix has any loftier goals other than protecting himself and protecting Kagami, which right now he's done both because they both have their remotes. However, as we saw in Pretension, Tomoe did become quite controlling of Kagami, so I don't think it's too far to say that depending on what happens, the kids might become involved with the council, or at the very least the council's actions will definitely affect them, especially Kagami, Felix and Adrian. But right now, I don't think Felix is on it, and actually I don't even think he knows it exists. But he will soon, because he's the only character the writer's allowed to use intelligence. As for Lila, it's also a no from me, mainly because of this line from Emotion.
And I wasn't invited? Of course not, you're not a precious stone. You're just a stone. Which
hands down one of the best things Kagami has ever said in the show. It tells us that Lila isn't from an influential family like Kagami is. Or perhaps Lila actually is, but we don't know who her parents actually are yet. So maybe she really is, but as far as we're aware at the minute, she isn't. I know a lot of people are pointing to the masks on her wall from Catalyst as proof, as there is a mask on the council, but I think those masks contribute to Lila's many identities rather than the council, in my opinion. Another piece of evidence is what happens at the end of Recreation. However, I'm unsure since the laptop behind Lila starts to levitate, so whatever has come for her is using magic. Now, possibly someone on the council does have a Miraculous. As we all know, Natalie has been to Tibet where the temple was, and perhaps Master Fu was unaware that more Miraculous survived the fire, so she could have taken one where Emily and Gabriel weren't looking, and she gave it to her father. Or since the council is kind of seedy underworld type of thing, perhaps one of them bought some kind of powerful jewel off Cash, aka Creepy McCreepface, similar to how Natalie bought the cave key from him in the Shanghai special. However, again, that's not to say I don't think Lila won't end up working with the council later on in the show. I think that's more than possible, but right now I don't think she's on it. A lot of people are also bringing up the laptop she took from Tomoe in Revolution, but right now I really don't feel there's any proof that it does more than control the robots that Chloe used in the episode, so I'm really not sure about that personally. Right now I think it's more plausible that Lila has her own circle of people and will work with either just Natalie or the council at large later on in the show. So to me, this is very much an adults only thing. However, I think we can take more of them out of the running, so Marinette's parents, Tom and Sabine, Alia's parents, Otis and Marlena, Max's mum, Claudie, Malen's dad, Fred, who if you don't remember, he got akumatized in the mime, and I'm also pretty sure he's the school caretaker, Julika and Luca's mum, Annika, but not Jagged, we'll come back to him later, Nathaniel's dad, Zoe's dad, since he doesn't even seem to be a character yet, Ivan's parents. I know they are criminals, but I don't think they're this kind of criminal, and Alex's dad. So I'm on the fence about Sabrina's dad, so we'll talk about more later, and I do think Andre, as in the ex-mayor, Chloe's dad, not the ice cream man, I definitely think Andre may know about the council, and the reason I think that is from Collusion. There is a line where Gabriel refers to Andre, the mayor at the time, it's the episode he resigns in, this is before he resigns though, Gabriel refers to him as the engineer of Paris, and while I'm not completely sure what symbol that would be here, perhaps it's the wheel. I'm also on the fence if Andre was ever on the council in the first place, since he did seem a bit like, kind of like a puppet mayor, and he would do what everyone kind of told him to do. I definitely think Andre would know about the council, but he's no longer on it when he resigned. And now maybe Miss Bustier is on it as the wheel, the new engineer of Paris, which I would love. Give me evil Miss Bustier, please and thank you. So now we've got rid of some people, let's go through these symbols. They're a bit like Shinra's areas of development from Final Fantasy VII or the Hunger Games districts. So the sun, perhaps this is the energy sector, but there is also an eye at the centre of it. So I'm like, maybe not energy, perhaps health? but that doesn't quite make sense either. This is the one I'm the most unsure of personally. Bricks is some kind of construction or perhaps more broadly infrastructure. The pen could be literature or perhaps a bit more broadly just media as well, so books as well as television and films. The wheel, like I said, due to this Engineer of Paris line, could be the government, but also maybe transportation or manufacturing. The sceptre could also be government or maybe royalty. The diamond we know for sure is fashion and luxury goods, as that was Gaby Baby, may he rest in pieces. The ear of wheat is Natalie's dad, and perhaps this is the food industry. The gear we know is Tomoe, the machine, and she does technology, for example cars, spaceships, and turning into a horse upon occasion. The mask could be entertainment, but perhaps that's a bit too close to the pen. The sword could be defence, as in the army, although I don't think they fight with swords anymore. The fire could be emergency services, so fire, police, ambulances. And I definitely think the molecules is science, or to be more specific, scientific research. So let's go through each of them, and I know not all of them spoke at the end of El Toro de Piedra, but I'm basically going to discount all of their voices, as I think it's possible they could be using voice changes to hide identities. For example, in Batman, the Court of Owls, which is basically the same thing as this, everyone on the court doesn't know other people's identities. That way, if one of them is caught, they can't betray anyone else because they genuinely don't know who is who. So perhaps everyone only knows that Gabriel is the diamond because he died, and it seems like the sceptre is possibly in charge of everything, so maybe the sceptre knows everyone's identities, but that's it. And obviously Natalie seems to be aware that Tomoe is the machine, but Tomoe did work pretty closely with Natalie and Gabriel in season 5, so perhaps the alliance rings were part of the council's plan, and Natalie ended up finding out that Tomoe was on this council. First of all, the molecules or science, I feel it can only be one person, and I'm about to butcher their name, but Anne-Jean Thioxan du Bocal, I don't know, who is called a professor by Nadia in Recreation and a doctor by also Nadia in Jubilation. I don't know which one she is. I am a doctor professionally. I wasn't aware you could be both though. I thought like professor's higher than doctor. I thought like once you become a professor, you no longer go by doctor, but I'm not an expert. Don't know. Either way, she is a scientist, and other than Miss Mendeleev, she is one of the only ones in the show. She does have a lot more influence than Madame Mendeleev, and if you don't remember who she was, because to be fair, she hasn't really been in the show very much, she is the one who brought the dinosaurs back to life in Rocketeer. Now, I don't think she's evil, she seems lovely, but the council are aiming for this perfect world, so perhaps she thinks they're doing good. So as I go through this list, please bear in mind, I don't think everyone I'm theorising here is a bad person for being on the council. I think it's possible that the more horrible people on the council have lied to the more morally good people so they can have their help in whatever area of expertise they have. The fire, I think, could be Roger or Captain Hennessy, who is so insignificant I don't even know what episodes this man appears in, but he is the fire captain, and they're the only emergency service workers we ever see apart from the occasional bin collector or garbage collector, but I don't believe any of them have ever been named. And if you would count them as emergency service workers or not is another thing. As for the sword, I think this actually could be Amelie. As we all know, Felix's dad was some kind of warlord, arms manufacturer, something to do with war, I don't know. So perhaps she took over when Colt died, but if not this one, I do think Amelie is involved somewhere since she was invited to the party and Daddy aggressed. I know people have also suggested Armand de Agincourt for the sword, and I just don't think he's influential enough. Like, he keeps running for mayor, he never wins, I don't think anyone likes him, so I really don't think it would be him in this instance. The mask, I know a lot of people have said Harry Clown, but again I'm unsure on this since most people think he's a laughingstock. I think Jagged Stone or Clara Nightingale are much more likely options for this one. We know Tomoe is the machine, and I definitely think it's her or Natalie who told the council that Ladybug lied, although I'm definitely leaning more towards Tomoe on that one. The ear of wheat is obviously Natalie's dad, and like I said before, food production, food manufacturing, but the only characters we have for that are Marinette's parents and Alia's mum, and Roland. And out of those four, Natalie is clearly Roland's daughter. Let me know if you want a very unserious theory video about that. Just in general though, I think Natalie's dad could be this world's equivalent to the Supreme from the Reverse special, and she may have been hunting for the Miraculous for her dad, but she chose to help Gabriel and went along with his plan to get the Ladybug and Cat Miraculous so she could give him to her dad for whatever it is that he actually wants, I don't know. The diamond was Gabriel, but he doesn't seem to have been replaced yet since that screen didn't light up for the vote. The sceptre, I think, could be Emile, Emily and Amelie's dad. Perhaps he was Colt's way of getting on the council in the first place. However, he does wear this like wheel thing over his cravat, which if it's related, I think could be government, like I've already said, the Engineer of Paris. So perhaps he wears it to show his allegiance to the council, to show his loyalty, since he doesn't live in France full time. Like, is he possibly French? I generally don't remember from Where Papas, but they do talk about how it's about a uniting between two countries, England and France. Millie quite firmly is a name I hear quite often here in the UK. So did they get the twin rings because they weren't the same nationality to start with? Then Emily used them for her and Gabriel, again different nationalities. So perhaps he wears the wheel over his cravat to show allegiance to the council, even though he doesn't live in France. So I've already said the wheel could be Miss Bustier, the Engineer of Paris, but it actually could also be manufacturing, so perhaps it's actually Bertrand King from Action. A lot of people are saying Nadia for the pen, but actually I think it might be Audrey. In my opinion, Audrey has a lot more influence than Nadia, and she does run Style Queen, which is a magazine. The bricks, I think, could be Nathaniel's mum. She seems to be an architect. And finally, we have the sun/I, and I'm really not sure what it is. The only other adult we have who is dodgy is Creepy McCreepface from the Shanghai Special, Cash. He owns a shady shop in Shanghai, if you don't remember, but he got defeated in the special, but that didn't stop him from getting more shady dealings in the New York special, which is several months later. I do think in general, though, the adults on this council are definitely raising their kids to one day take over these roles, hence the reason for things like the Diamond Dance. So I do think the kids will find out one day, but I don't know when that will be. And I think we're all going to learn the most about this council this season in episodes like Secret Protocol and Nemesis. So I think that's everything I have to say about the council, other than I'm not sure what they want. They have this perfect world project going on, and first of all, I'm not sure if that's an alias and it's meant to throw us off. It's actually not a perfect world. They want to make everything horrific. But also at the same time, like, to me, the Paris we have in season 6 is pretty perfect. It's fairly environmentally friendly. There are heroes everywhere helping everyone, so I'm like, what would need improving, you know? However, just because that's my definition of perfect, that might not be their definition of perfect. So I'm really unsure of what it is they actually want. Anyway, besties, of course, I'd love to know what you think of this. Who do you think are good contenders for each symbol? What do you think each symbol means? Especially that sun/I think, because I've got no idea. Anyway, always love to know what you think, and I will see you in the next one.